Right then, welcome back to the channel. Stephen Howson. 5 things that we learned watching that absolute shit show yesterday. I couldn't do a review last night, as some of you might have noticed. I've been proper struggling with, I think I had COVID, and I think it's just the tail end of it. I've been ill for about 3 or 4 weeks, and it's absolutely pissing me off. Getting the trains up and down the country every other day is not really doing me much good either, but it is what it is. I had no voice last night, and considering the result, I didn't feel like pushing through it, so I thought, do you know what, I'll just save my voice, and I can do some videos today. So I've got this one coming out, I've got another one coming out later on tonight as well, so make sure to subscribe if you've not already, and let's get into it. So first one then, Leaky at the back, obviously. No Harry Maguire, but it didn't really stop with the defensive issues. I was watching Varane closely, especially with the lack of scanning that Maguire does. I was like, someone prove me right here. And Varane was scanning. Now, he missed the ball for the first one, and Tellers had a stinker for the first one. And even though we still conceded 3 goals, I thought there was a slight improvement, at least at centre-half anyway. From the full-back areas, it was a waste. The back four's too chop and change, too much like strangers. There's very much something about playing the same team week in, week out, which we're not able to do for obvious reasons. We just can't keep a clean sheet, though. We just cannot keep a clean sheet. De Gea needs to step up a little bit more and organise his back four when he sees things that he shouldn't. The guy's the most experienced player in the team, outside of Ronaldo. He has to start talking up. Only 27 of the other 97 teams in European top 5 leagues have conceded more goals than United this season. We are in the bottom third of Europe. Number 2, refereeing disaster class. I rarely come out here and talk about referees and bad refereeing decisions because it doesn't make any difference. But it was dreadful yesterday. It was absolutely dreadful. It felt like from minute 1, everything was just going to be against us. It was a dodgy penalty decision to them. Nketiah being stood offside. And then you roll it back to that. That's what I don't like about VAR. If it finds something in the process of looking at something else, now that becomes valid. You didn't give the penalty in the first place. You wasn't looking at the penalty in the first place. Why are we now looking at this? The handball, I understand the explanation. I don't buy that explanation. He's batted it away. He's not been caught between him and the ground. I said at the time, I thought Alanga's penalty would have been soft, but so was the one that they were awarded. It was just as much of a foul in my eyes. Big decisions in big moments have really rattled the game. I don't think, I'm not going to sit here and say United dominated that game. Not necessarily even going to say I think we deserved anything out of that game. But those big moments, in a team low on confidence, they can make a massive difference. Number 3, Ronaldo's return. Tough week for him, obviously on a personal level. Horrendous week. Can't imagine what his mental state has been like this week. But looked like he wanted to win, played like he wanted to win. And brought a real quality. Some real good one-touch and great movement off the ball and tenacity, which isn't something you could necessarily associate with him this season, but it was there. He was never the problem. Can make a case he probably should have took the penalty, but hindsight's 20/20 and all that lot. He's finally joined the Premier League 100 club. I can't wait for all these idiots to start trying to compare how long it took him to get 100 goals versus like Salah and stuff like that, forgetting the fact that he came as an absolutely raw teenager who was very much a winger rather than a wide forward when he started. So expect that in the next few days. I thought it was a great game from him. I could still make a case for moving him on and trying to do something fresh next season. But if he is here next season, he won't be the problem next season either. Number 4, just season needs to end. The players are serial losers. The attitude of the collective is a disgrace. I think Ralph's got a couple of things wrong as well. Bringing in Rashford. Rashford may be a little bit different, but bringing in Lingard and Mata that we know are probably gone at the end of the season. When you've got the likes of Garnacho that you could try and blood in and try and form some sort of an opinion on how he can do in the first team against another Premier League opposition, I think there was opportunities missed there. Mata and Lingard offered next to nothing when they came on. Just play them. I'm not necessarily blaming the defeat on Lingard or Juan Mata. The game was gone by the time they came on. But just bring the youngsters on. We saw the fight that we saw from Mabry midweek. I think as fans, that's something we could get behind at the moment. Is someone that's just going to put a shift in, no matter what. And for a large degree, one, that's how cult heroes are made. And two, that can often be how careers are made. You come in and just try, because there is just a lack of effort across the club at the moment. And looking at some of the leaks, I can guess where some of those leaks came from last night about the attitude of players and how there's almost just a complete refusal to do what they're told in terms of instructions. It doesn't matter if you got Fergie with Busby as his assistant. They're not going to do anything with players that just refuse to do their fucking jobs. They're quickly becoming... Ollie really went to bat for these lads, and they are quickly becoming a real unlikable bunch. Like Roy Keane said, they've thrown countless managers under the bus. They're going to continue to do it. Just launch them, the lot of them. And kind of tied in, number 5, a mindset change is needed. It's the most expensive squad in the world. And if we're talking about value for money, we would get more from our free transfers and our youth players than the so-called most expensive squad in the world. Ten Hag is going to have to install change. And he's going to have to do it with the rod, because these players have been given the carrot. Ollie gave them the carrot. He protected them in the press. He was nice to them. It was all that sort of stuff. And yet, they've thrown him under the bus. There needs to be a mass exodus. There's going to be an exodus, but there needs to be enforced ones. Anyone that's wishy-washy, get out. If you're not going to go and fight for this club, get out now. Just do one. It's going to take a long time. And this little period under Rangnick, where it kind of got worse than what it was like under Ollie, might have been needed. But we might not have bottomed out yet. We might still be getting carried through some games on the back of a bit of Pogba brilliance, on the back of maybe something Matic has done, on the back of something some of these players that aren't going to be here have done. And they might not be here next year. I think a lot of them will not be here next year. And we might make a mistake in it. We might sign 4 players and 2 of them might not work. That's a very real possibility. That's about the average hit rate for transfers. We might lose some quality. We could have injuries. It could easily get worse before it gets better. I just hope that this, after so many false dawns, is the rebuild that we needed. Moyes came in and the club was too big for him. He couldn't do the job Sir Alex Ferguson was doing. Louis it didn't work with. Jose never wanted a director of football appointing above him. I actually saw someone yesterday saying that he developed the youth, which is fucking hilarious. Solskjaer, I think, has put some decent things in place, but they've crumbled since whatever was working for him just hasn't worked and clearly wasn't going to work long term. The front of house, the structure around everybody, the sports science, someone driving the culture of the club for excellence. Gary Neville said it a few times, best in class. When was the last time he said that about Manchester United? When was the last time? Ten Hag's appointment could be considered something along those. He is the best available manager in the world at the moment. But when was the last time we did that? When was the last time? If we appoint somebody like Paul Mitchell, someone with a reputation of being a serious talent in world recruitment, as well as having Ten Hag, as well as having the experience of club building behind the scenes, I encourage you all to go and read Das Reboot from Raphael Honigstein. And it touches on some of the things that Ralph Rangnick has done throughout his career and how he's seen his arse at different clubs because they wouldn't appoint everything that he wanted. From sports psychologists to certain doctors to certain ways things are run within the training ground. There is a massive illusion of competency at football clubs because they are paid so much and because they are visible. But just because they are visible and because people are paid a lot of money does not mean that they have any fucking clue what they're doing. Ed Woodward being a massive example for that. The illusion of competence is rife in CEO culture, to be honest. It's so much of a who do you know, what do you not what do you know. It's so much of an old boys club. Finding true innovation is hard work, but it's out there. And that's why you see smaller clubs. People are going to take this as a dig, but it's a fact. Smaller clubs like Manchester City didn't have this embedded culture within them, so they could change the culture to be whatever Tiki Bajiristan wanted it to be, and what Soriano wanted it to be. Even Barcelona was a bit of a provincial club before Cruyff came into it. They weren't the megalith that they became, and he was able to impart his culture onto them. RB Leipzig was basically a brand new franchise club. People have been able to impart their culture upon it because it was small and it was agile. Manchester United, in this sense, resemble an oil tanker. There's so many people that have been there for 10 years before Fergie left. It's mad to think. The revolution needs to happen, and it needs to be ruthless. If it's not, if you don't go in and two-foot this, it is not going to work. United are not in a position to look for short term because you've got teams now that have established themselves for the long term. You're not in a bit of a sprint to just try and get ahead of somebody. You've got people who have run marathons, and you've got people who are versed in what they're doing and established. And you ain't going to beat them with just trying to sprint ahead of them for 5 meters. You need the foundation. You need that base to work from. And there's still a lot of good at Manchester United. We've still got one of the best academies in the country. And a lot of people will and ah about this. It's a fact. When was the last time Barcelona were producing sensational talent on a world level? Ajax are doing it again recently, but in the last 20 years, they had a fall off where they weren't doing that. Chelsea are doing it on a mass scale at the moment, but it's only just started to break through for them. Manchester City have essentially had Phil Foden, despite the $500 million spent on their academy. Liverpool, prior to Trent, when was the last time they had somebody? I don't know what people are expecting. Are people expecting a George Best and a Class of 92 out of the academy every 18 months? It's just not realistic. Manchester United, Ajax and Barcelona, up until about 2 years ago, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any updated statistics on this. But up until a couple of years ago, we were the places that were providing the most international footballers and the most top-flight footballers across Europe. That's it. Them 3 academies. Now, some of those players you might consider, relatively mediocre. Probably not a world-class player amongst them, but the volume is still there. And I think the world-class player production is more about luck than it is judgment and skill in coaching and development. United have and had the likes of Tom Heaton and Johnny Evans and people like that add to United statistics. They're internationals. They're playing top-flight football. So there's a lot of good still around United. But we have to go in properly and back this revolution properly. Otherwise, we are in the shit. Anyway, make sure to subscribe. There'll be another video out later. See you in a bit. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.